Hey, guess what? I am still alive. This video is going over my week in Shetland that happened about a month ago, so we're a little behind. But this is a travel day getting from Dublin to Aberdeen. And guess what? The President of the United States beat me to Aberdeen. So I was a little mad and got myself a little treat. But then a couple hours later, we were off into the air and heading off to Sombra Head, which is on the southern part of the Shetland mainland. And that's the airport. I could see it from my hotel room, but couldn't actually walk there because there were no sidewalks. So this is a quick view just outside the hotel. You're surrounded by the ocean, being on the southern tip of Shetland. And there were 3 lovely ponies, which you'll see, that like to live in that front area, and I would read with them. They're so cute. But it was a gorgeous day. And so before we kind of got all settled, there was a Stone Age, Iron Age, Viking Age monument called Jarlshof that I got to clamber around in. And you can go all over in this archaeological area. It was so fun. And this was underground, and as you'll see, there's a small hole that is practically the size of a doggy door that I thought was where you were supposed to enter the first time. So there's a tiny door. So I like crawled around through this door. You didn't actually have to clamber through there. There was a larger entrance, so that was all right. But here we are. This was a ruin already by the 17th century. By the time Walter Scott came around, and he put it in his book, The Pirate. The setting in there. Isn't that fun? So this is actually from the top of that ruin there. And what's really fun is that I'm pretty sure I met almost everyone in our group at this ruin before we got together at dinner, and we just didn't know each other yet. So most of the people clambering around are actually on our tour group. It was really fun. So then oh my gosh, just look at the views. You'll hear me say that a lot. It was just incredible. Oh my gosh. And so here are the ponies. Aren't they just the sweetest? So I got to read on that bench with them several times. It was lovely. And then after dinner, after we all met each other, there was orca sightings about 30 minutes from us. So we drove up to try to see them. Our guide James is on a WhatsApp group, and so they keep each other, posted on, ooh, we've seen dolphins and orcas and stuff. And so we got to see orcas for like 30 minutes. They just kind of hung around that point out there, probably eating a seal. So that was pretty cool. And then, as you'll see, guess what? I found a cemetery. That's also a theme you'll find. So then, this is the next day. We were at Sombra Head, just a little bit south of our hotel, which has a lovely bird nesting area. So we saw fulmar, we saw puffins, which will come in, and bonksy, or great skua. And I feel like we also saw something else. Maybe kittiwake? I can't remember. There were a lot of birds this week. So cool. So as you can see, there are some puffins, and they are so tiny. This is the end of the season, so we weren't expecting to see a bunch, but about 4 to 5 kind of hung out with us for 14 to 15 minutes, and I did not take this video. This is either James or Caroline, our resident photographers on the tour. But look at his little feet. Oh my gosh, just the cutest. And then you'll see here, they have like an oil sac or something by their butt, and so they'll use their beaks and kind of preen themselves so they stay waterproof. It's so cute, little butt pocket of oil. They're so funny. And then I think this is a fulmar. It's been a month, but they attack other birds by puking on them. So that's kind of fun. We then went on a drive up north to Lerwick, which is the capital city, has about 7,000 people, which already at this point, that felt huge. And we got to wander around. Everything was closed on Sunday, but so this is the harbor. And got a coffee from a guy named Barry, I think, who's the first guy to have a little coffee trailer on Shetland. He was so kind. And then obviously had to go stop by the Lodberry, which is, if you watch Shetland BBC, this is Jimmy Perez's house. But it was just a gorgeous day, and people were out swimming, and just, oh my gosh. And another theme for this video, you'll see a lot of seaweed. There's just such cool seaweed here. So this is us getting on a little boat tour to go see some gannets. and James feeding a Bonksy, just sick as hell. Look at that, so casual. And this was really interesting to see the difference between these large ships that work in like oil and energy fields, and then these smaller boats here that are like fishing. And it was out this juxtaposition in Shetland. Oh, see, another Bonksy, look at it go, so close. Oh my gosh, it was so cool. So then most of that afternoon was actually spent out at Nos with a gannet colony that has, I think, 14,000 breeding pairs or something. It's absolutely insane. And these gannets are, I would consider, large birds. And they live for up to 50 years. They have one baby per season. Look at that. I think that's their little dating rock. So 3 to 4 year olds will kind of hang out every year. And oh, this is sick. This is how they get their prey. They just go zoom, and they can get like 60 miles an hour or something, and have internal like life vests almost in their skull and in their spine, so that they don't, you know, die upon impact in the water. So cool. So then we had, I could have been out of the water longer, honestly. It was such a beautiful day, and just watching those birds was incredible. So then we had I went on a nice little walk along the cliff back at our hotel, and already checking out little Fulmar chicks on the way. Next day, this is us crossing the airport tarmac and heading over to Spiggy. We also saw some very cute birds here that I don't remember the name of. I'm so sorry, it's been a month. And this is a seal finger. This was the coolest bone I found all week. The rest were a lot of cattle and sheep bones, which, you know, to be expected. But the seal finger was sick. Then we headed over to St. Ninian's, which is Tombolo. And so this is a good time to kind of introduce the group, as you'll see as we pan over. You'll see their backs. I have a picture of them later. But we've got Marty and James and Steffi and Susan and Vicky and Carrie, and then Eva's going to come over here in a bit. And I think Caroline maybe is behind me. I can't remember. Or maybe she was further along. But I'll give you a full introduction later. They were great. So then this is up at St. Ninian's Chapel, which is overlooking St. Ninian's, like, Tombolo. Very nice. So then we took a nice drive north. We were moving this day from Sunborough Head up to St. Magnus Bay up in the north. And this was a really nice time. We had a 9-person van, and so we got to get really cozy and get to know each other. It was quite nice. This is my first kind of glimpse of wind turbines, which was quite fun. And oh my gosh, the spots we stopped for lunch, no shortage of gorgeous. And we thought it was going to rain. It actually didn't. It was quite nice. And then we have a little otter hi-ho sighting. Or we were trying to go see otters. That wasn't going to happen. This is bog cotton. It's a flower. How cool is that? And again, like I said, lots of seaweed. This is bladderwrack, I believe. It's yellow. Oh my gosh, probably my favorite. And of course, had to stop off at a cemetery. We did see seals and sheep. And oh my gosh, you guys, I swear I got the jackpot at this hotel. Gigantic room. And truly mind-boggling. I was like, this is all for me? How fun. And out here, obviously, cemetery. Look at that. So then you can see, oh my gosh, the light. There's 2 bays. So one off to the right, you'll see a lot more in upcoming clips. And then off to the left is where we're going to see otters. There's just like otters every day. We just walk out the hotel, boom, some otters hanging out. And look at that sunset. Okay, so see, this is the next day. We've got otters hanging out, just frolicking, eating fish, I think one day we saw them eating a crab. It was wild. Caroline got some good footage. So this was a ferry that we need to take over to Yelp. Only about a 15-minute ferry ride, which is quite lovely. Really enjoyed it. There's our group. But I promise I will introduce them fully in just a second. So this is a mussel farm, if you see the little dots. And someone got married. This was a goal. I wanted to see someone's wedding announcement. This was over for the Apelia, as a annual festival, and you can put on the old costumes and things. So much fun. So that's Caroline in the helmet right there. And then Steffi. Look at her go. Oh my gosh, so much fun. They also had a naked calendar fundraiser hanging up, which was hilarious, and the year's like annual gossip poem. Oh, so good. Love a good gossip. like I said, no shortage of beautiful lunch spots. This is a beach, cannot remember which beach it was, but did get to see these cool like barnacle-y type things that had attached to some plastic trash that washed up on the beach. And so I went out and tried to see if they were still alive and put them in the water, and they had these cool like fan bits that came up, but then I did get socked by a rogue wave, so I was a little damp for the rest of the day, but that was all right. This was pre-rogue wave, so still quite nice, but oh my gosh, it was a gorgeous day. So then, this is at James's house. That's an orca skull he just found on the beach. Sick as hell. And it was really fun to like be welcomed into someone's home. You know, small thing, but it really sealed the deal that Shetland is quite special. So this is on our way back to the Shetland mainland. So as you can see, it's not that far. Quite a nice little trek across the water. And then we're driving up to North Mavine, which at this point in the trip I was already having kind of words to describe how this trip was affecting me and will become very important, I think, in how I go on throughout my life. But I still have a hard time vocalizing it now, so I hope I can have some bits here as well. But anyway, this is North Mavine. This is a land crossing that people used to take their boats over. I think it's a 6-meter difference between one side to the next, or 10 meters, something like that. And you can get your boats across faster than going all the way back down south. So I did climb up a hill, and these are other very fun little goats here. That night, back at the hotel, I wandered to the cemetery I can see from my room, obviously. And then also walked over through a little sheep field to the bay. And most of the time I had this to myself. I had a lovely little nighttime chats with the sea. I got to see some beautiful sea stacks here. Found out later that it is very famous for those sea stacks out in the far distance over there. So that was pretty cool. I liked that a lot. But yeah, as I was saying, I'm starting to have words about how this all comes together. And I think part of the reason why I fell in love with Shetland is that even though everything is, like, the wind is fierce and there's all different kinds of things, the small wildflowers, the people, the wildlife, everything just asks you to pay attention. And I found that I started to pay more attention throughout the week, which was really, really cool. And then there was this adorable couple that was celebrating their 30th anniversary, and so they asked James to take a picture. That was kind of fun. And we dragged him to a fiddler's night, which there was no dancing that night. It was just a practice night. But we got to use a little egg. That's Caroline getting all eggy and a failed piano. Oh, gosh. Next day we went to Fettler. So first we had to take the ferry to Unst. And then from Unst to Fettler. So 2 different ferries. And you can thank Shetland that going forward, all of my footage is widescreen because I got so frustrated with not being able to get as much as I wanted into each little video. So thank you, Shetland. So this was a little wildflower hike that we went on. Got to see different yellow hawksbill, buttercup, tom and towel. They're all small yellow flowers, but they like to grow together. So see, again, pay attention. Those swans, they're so fun. And there are some seals out there, kind of in the middle. I don't know if you can quite see them. And of course, you gotta clamber around a ruin. Duh. Then we've got our lunch spot. See, again, another beautiful beach. You're never far from the beach on Shetland. I think it's like 6 miles at its widest or something. I think 12 miles at its widest. I can't remember. Anyway, we also got to learn about a plant that tastes like oysters if you taste it. That was pretty fun. And look at these little guys. Oh, they're kind of plovery dunlins. I can't remember. We saw so many birds, but they were adorable. And guess what? This was an old laird's house that 3 years ago I saw for sale on some site. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's 30,000 pounds. How about we buy this sucker? That'd be so fun. Yeah, no, then you need like 11 million to do like updates and stuff. As you can see, it's not livable in any kind of way. But I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And we just stopped and said, I was like, I know this house. So that was quite fun. Then we got the ferry back to Unst, and Marty making friends over there with some guys, and a minke whale sighting. So these are so cool. I did get to see a brief little bit, but it did, go dive down. This is back at the bay, my favorite little bay, and as you can see, lots of seaweed. It was very relaxing. This was a night I think we had Steffi and Eva also came down, and there was an adorable family that was hanging out at the beach all day, and they made like a labyrinth with sticks for their young son, and so Steffi and their son kind of did the labyrinth together. It was so stinking cute. And as you can see, I have a lot of videos of shells because I did not want to add 20 pounds to my luggage, so I did not take the shells, but I liked looking at them. And this one gives like kind of a mother of pearl when it hits the sun. It's like a bluey. Let's see if it'll do it. Yeah, right there. Look at that. Just absolutely gorgeous. And then I did keep this rock, though, because that's a sick-ass rock. Look at that. I don't even know what it is. But the water here also sparkled because there were so many sparkly rocks that broke up. And it was just, wow. This is, again, the next day we went to Unst, and we saw swans with 6 babies, which is very rare to see so many babies from one pair. And so we only had a 1 ferry day, just to Unst was just a 1 ferry. This is the most northerly inhabited island in the UK, I believe. So this is our hike up to Hermanus, which is another gannet colony with, I think, double the breeding pairs of gannets at Nos. It was absolutely incredible getting to see wildflowers and dunlins and bracken and heather and all different kinds of flora and fauna. And so, okay, here we go. We've got our group photo coming up. See if I can do this fast. James, Caroline, Ela, Susan, Marty, me, Steffi, Vicky, Carrie. Got them. Okay. And then we've got more gannets. Just look at all of them. Just going crazy. And gannets will stay in the same nesting spot their whole life. So they know exactly where on the rock they need to go, and they stay right there. So all those little babies, those little fluff balls, get so fat, and then they hop off and then starve for 10 days and fly away. And then we had lunch at a Viking longhouse with a sick-ass fish table. How fun is that? So this is like a recreation. This is not actually one from the Viking Age, but this is what they would have looked like and how they would have functioned. And on top, there's like grass and stuff, and there's, different meeting places. And then I just thought it was really funny that at the very end now you have storage. Oh man. But yes, here we saw I think a red-throated diver, maybe. Caroline, I think, might have gotten a picture of it on her like big camera. But this was really cool. Just a lovely little bay. And oh man, just grass and clouds. Can't go wrong. I found this little snail, and he was alive. So that was kind of fun. I put him back. Gallo made it up to the final check-in at on Unst. This little bus stop is Bobby's Bus Shelter. It is now kind of a theme every year. So this year was bees, which I thought was so fitting, because me and bees, as you can tell from the other videos, are so fun. So we got to dress up. Then we also went wildflower hunting on this kind of like almost Martian landscape. This was also pay attention day because the wildflowers are so tiny. Like if you're not looking for them, you will step on them. And so this is what Shetland would have looked like without sheep manure. James looking at with reverse binoculars. And this is what Shetland looks like with sheep manure. And it felt fitting that on the last ferry ride it was raining. So the sky was sad with us. That was quite nice. But this was the last little night at the bay. It went over so quickly. This was a lovely time to kind of reflect on the past week. And really, this was a place where hope reignited for me. And I was pleasantly surprised by strangers becoming friends, and just reinforced my belief that you should always make friends with the dead and with the sea every chance you get. So I'm taking that one forward. We also had a lovely little pub jukebox that night with the group, and with Esme, the kind of caretaker of the hotel. Got to learn new music, jam into classics. It was just so much fun to see how everyone came together. And so this is the last day. So those are the sea stacks from a different vantage point. So we're kind of a little bit more north. And and went over to Eshenes, I think is how it's called, but this is a geo. So this used to be a sea cave that has some point collapsed, and the wind was crazy this day. It was so strong. Marty was a little bit scared that someone was going to get blown over, so he was a little stressed. But it was absolutely gorgeous. And this is kind of walking around the back of that geo to get to a fortified broch. It's like a beehive kind of structure that would have stood about like 40 feet tall in its heyday. Pretty nuts. Steffi and Eva, you can just see over the top of that sea cave. And then here is water mills, or that would have been used, I think, for grain since the Stone Age, and were used, I think, up until the 19th century, maybe. They were used for quite a long time. But here's where the broch was at some point. It would have been much higher. And then we went to a place called Ronas Hill, and here you can see a bunch of like the islands around Shetland. Actually, this was the only place I actually felt truly cold the whole week. The wind was incredibly strong and brisk, so brisk. There's even a broch at the top of that hill, which was quite fun. And we didn't go all the way up because that's quite a hike, but it was good to see another kind of like Martian landscape. This was absolutely incredible stuff. I mean, just so windy, as you can see by my hair. We stopped in Lerwick again and got to see, I stumbled upon The Lounge, which also shows up in the Shetland BBC. This is Scallowa Castle, built in the 16th century for an absolute dickhead of an earl, who ended up getting executed for treason. So that was quite fun. And this is the bay, the Scallowa Bay, where the Shetland bus operation took place during World War II, fishermen trying to help out and shuttle people and supplies back and forth. And of course I had to take one last little walk along the cliffs. We were back in Sombra Head for the night. And look, just finding little Fulmar chicks, little fluffy bubbies. And James had to check out after dinner, and so the rest of us got together and shared a dram of Shetland whiskey and enjoyed just hanging out and being together. Oh, look at how cute everybody is. And we got to see an orca, lol. Little AI fun for you. But yeah, so this was the last night. During the next day, this is me on a bus heading into Lerwick. Everybody else had left by this point. Got to wander around Lerwick. Tried to post some things, but the internet was down, so the post office was closed. So just little Shetland things there. But I had booked a pod on this, so it's kind of like a business class seat. It's kind of nice. Did the job, for sure. But as I was leaving Lerwick, definitely felt like I was ripping up roots as I was leaving Shetland. Shed some very not cute tears the whole like hour and a half that we were going down the kind of eastern side heading south. But it was just absolutely wonderful trip. It truly feels like I have become a different person through this trip, and I already cannot wait to go back to Shetland. So lots more thoughts to come at some point, but all in all, an incredible week. Bye!